Welcome, everyone, to Dovetail Learning's webinar on turning emotional reactions into revelations. My name is Chuck Fisher. I'm the Director of Transformational Learning at Dovetail Learning. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, which is the study of human well-being from cross-cultural and spiritual perspectives. And I am a former executive director at Dovetail. Spent 25 years as a school counselor, and I've been at Dovetail for 15 years, training educators, healthcare providers, families, and others in resilience, emotional intelligence, and the stuff of life that we all engage with. Excited today to talk about this idea of the revelations that our emotions can give us. And I'll just give a brief overview of Dovetail. Our mission is to strengthen resilience in adults and children. It's the love of my life to work with children and to work with the adults who work with children so that we can have a world of kind, connected human beings. Dovetail's motto, if you will, is helping to create a world in which everyone learns how to be the best possible version of ourselves. And that's true for myself and our team, as well as everyone we work with. How do we lean into being the person that we really want to be, that's in alignment with our values? Because we all get thrown off. And that's what resilience is about: getting thrown off, balance, coming back into center. And we're going to explore that through the lens of emotions primarily today. So the agenda for this webinar is we'll just look at a high overview of the approach of We Are Resilient. We'll look at the mindsets that matter, emotions and why they're so important. We'll look through the lens of protective patterns because they're some of our key emotional reactive patterns, and the centering that helps us access our own wisdom. So, as in all of our trainings, we like to walk our talk and like to invite everyone to take a moment to pause, get here from wherever you've been in the course of your day and your life. I'm going to ring this singing bowl, which you may or may not be able to hear because my Zoom hasn't been picking it up. But imagine the bell if you can't hear it, and just go inward, inside, take stock, take a breath, and allow yourself to be just exactly the way you are. Whatever stress you may be carrying, whatever openness to learning you bring to this experience. And just catch yourself sitting in your chair or in whatever position you're in, and notice what you notice. And on the second bell, I invite you to open your eyes, bring yourself back to the learning atmosphere, and notice what you notice. And notice the sensation of the felt somatic feelings in my body as I'm sitting in this chair. I notice that I have a frog in my throat. Excuse me for that. I notice I'm a little tired from not getting a full night's sleep. And I noticed that I'm really interested in what we're going to explore today, bring discovery to. So, as I showed in the agenda, we'll just look at this approach to well-being. We call it We Are Resilient. Because we are resilient, every one of us. And what we've done at Dovetail is we've mined for the gold in what are the things that impact our resilience. And if you call it a roadmap to resilience, it really starts with our mindsets. We distinguish the mindsets of curiosity, choice, and courage. We'll look at that a little bit. But it's about the frame of mind, the attitude that informs our behavior. We also look at two sets of patterns that are ingrained in all of us, cultural patterns and protective patterns. Cultural patterns are the patterns that are passed down intergenerationally, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors from our parents and grandparents and all the way up the line from the culture at large, from the cultural messages. We're not going to look at that in this webinar, but it's a big part of what we teach, as well as protective patterns, which we'll touch on lightly, just the reactive patterns that we all have emotionally every day that help keep us safe and also can get in our way. And then lastly, three sets of skills for centering, connecting, and collaborating. Centering is about centering ourselves personally. Connecting is about connecting with another. And collaborating is, of course, working with groups. Now, if you put that all into a little bit of a different diagram, we're talking about personal resilience, relational resilience with another person, and group resilience with more than one other person. It's all held in the cultural context of our personal experiences, our family patterns, and all of the intergenerational transmission of values. So with that as the backdrop, we're going to move into the specific inquiry into how emotions can reveal important information for us. And it starts with our definition of resilience, which is that it's an ordinary superpower. We love this quote from Anne Maston. There is nothing rare or special about being resilient. It's what we all have inside us, the everyday magic of being human. And I'm noticing that my slide deck has some peculiarities to it. So I'm going to skip over those peculiarities. Oh, odd. Okay, I see what happened. And we'll go into the mindsets. We call them mindsets that matter because they make they're hugely important. And start with sort of the biggest picture. If we take the lens of noticing ourselves, we have fixed mindsets and we have growth mindsets. We distinguish these growth mindsets of curiosity, choice, and courage. But it's equally important to distinguish some of the fixed mindsets that we just don't even know are there. They're unconscious. When we're judgmental or we're feeling threatened, we get resigned. We're not in curiosity when we're resigned. We're in despair or hopelessness. We're not in choice when we're judgmental because we're just running on our assumptions rather than looking at the whole spectrum of what's possible, what could be happening, what might be happening for the other person, what's the context in which we're experiencing this. And then in a fixed mindset, it often comes from a place of being threatened or unsafe. And the antidote to that is courage. using our courage. Courage comes from the root word core, which means love. So we define courage as following our hearts, opening our hearts. When we open our hearts to others and we open our hearts to ourselves with self-compassion, it changes everything. So again, these three growth mindsets that we teach are about curiosity. How am I being? What's going on? What don't I know? Choice. What are the empowering choices that are possible? There's a huge spectrum of choices from doing nothing to drastically changing how we approach things. And where in there might an answer lie? And lastly, courage, which we ask the question of, what kind of person do I want to be? So what I'd like to do for today is lean into curiosity. What the heck is going on here? Because we're going to be looking at our emotions and our emotional life, and let's approach it with curiosity. Like, wow, what are emotions? Why do they do what they do? Why do people react the way they react? Why do I react the way I react? Um, Curiosity is a way of approaching life by pausing, noticing, and wondering. So we bring our sense of wonder to whatever's happening. It could be I get a flat tire and I start to get judgmental and, oh, it shouldn't happen. And I've got someplace to be. And we can move into curiosity and just go, okay, what do I need to do now? How might I approach this from a positive standpoint? What, in fact, might become possible now because I had this flat tire that never would have been possible otherwise? We do this by using the first centering skill, which is called noticing myself. And we have to notice before we can center. We got to pause and ask, what's the cause? We notice ourselves. Noticing ourselves includes a variety of dimensions. It's about being curious, of just noticing, sensing, feeling. Sometimes we get a sense or a feeling. Have you ever had the experience of knowing something's off, but you couldn't put your finger on it? That's what I'm talking about. Being curious about stopping and pausing long enough to go inside and really ask and feel and sense, what am I noticing? What am I sensing? What am I feeling? What are the thoughts that are running me? The words I say to myself? The body feelings I'm having? My reactive patterns, which again we call protective patterns? My somatic felt sense of the state of my being? If I think of resilience on a scale of 1 to 10, am I at a 10 today? A 6? Am I depleted? Am I at a 4? Am I at way down there and just, out of the game? Being curious about our state of being opens up a whole world of possible answers. And to get from reactions to insight requires paying attention. So using our curiosity, what's pause? What's the cause? It's the cause that I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. What's the cause that I'm feeling anxious about a meeting I have to go to? What's the cause of why I'm feeling so exuberant and I'm giggly and I don't even know what it is? It's all there just to be seen. And it all lives in our emotions. Emotions are the glue that hold everything together, literally at the cellular level. We'll look at that maybe a little bit later. But how we move from noticing our emotional reactions to getting the revelations of those. You know, we're all over the map. We could be depressed or upset, or we could be in a friendly conversation with a friend, or we could be wild-eyed. But we have just this entire spectrum of emotions that we experience on a daily basis. Here's an example from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Uh, the different categories of emotions, we call them 4 quadrants: angry and sad, the narrow emotions that constrict us, the broad emotions on the right, from happy to calm. And just look at some of the words in there and see what captures your attention. Um, Hopeful, astonished, gratified, blessed. Uh, Maybe I'm sullen or feeling alienated. Maybe there's something that I'm feeling righteous about, and I need to pay attention to that righteous anger. Or maybe it's a disturbed anger, and I need to pay attention to that and see that what I'm doing is just hurting myself. Noticing my emotion. So emotions are signals. Emotions are signals. And let's say that emotions are communication from our body. So we have a felt sense in our body of any one of these emotions. We feel it somatically. We feel it in our muscular system. We feel it in our breath. Sometimes we hold our breath when we're in a difficult emotion. We're feeling this intense, enormous gestalt of an emotional experience in our body and our mind. It impacts our spirit. Our body is literally causing these emotions to rise up through the body to get to the brain so we can pay attention. It's a signaling, messaging system. We call them emotional signals. And every emotion has a signal and a value and a message to give us. Here's a short set of examples from Leslie Cameron Bandler and Michael LeBeau. Anger, we can see that whenever I feel angry, it's because an important boundary or value has been violated. Someone speaks to me in a certain tone of voice, and I start to get angry. It's like, wait a minute, you can't speak to me that way. It's not okay. That it's a crossing a boundary. I don't want to be treated that way. Something happens in the world that's against my values. I get angry. It's a very important emotion. It tells us when something has gone wrong or been violated, and that gives us enormous choice to then be able to handle it effectively. Joy signals what I value and love. Feeling joyful, looking out my window at the redwood trees. I live in Northern California, and the sun is shining. I had my grandkids here over the weekend. Just the loves of my life. Joy signals what I value. Frustration. Frustration is an interesting one. If I'm feeling frustrated, it's actually telling me that I need to alter my expectations or change what I'm doing. So I have an expectation that I'm going to get to this meeting on time. I get a flat tire. I get really frustrated. Okay, well, I can shift my expectations. Okay, that's not going to happen. Make the phone call, let them know, change what I'm doing. Guilt. I've violated my own standards and need to shift my own behavior. Guilt is a wonderful emotion. It gives us this signal. Oh, wow, I feel really bad about how I did that. Well, maybe that can lead me to an apology. It can lead me to a change in behavior. Guilt serves us. All these emotional signals, being satisfied, met my own expectations, my own desires, my own needs or goals. Cause, what's the cause? Brene Brown calls this a pathway to ourselves and others. She says, without understanding how our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors work together, it's almost impossible to find our way back to ourselves and each other. Well, I call this emotional intelligence. And there's a lot in the world about emotional intelligence, tons of books. Most of them are about emotional competencies, the ability to notice an emotion, notice someone else's emotion, be able to name an emotion, be able to work with an emotion. Those are all emotional competencies. But emotional intelligence, what exactly is that? I call it emotional intelligence is literally the intelligence of our emotion. What we were just describing with all those emotional signals. Every time I have an emotion, it's my body, the intelligence of the wisdom of my body is trying to get that message to my brain so I can pay attention. And I came up with this years ago. I was working in high schools with kids and teaching peer helpers about their emotions. And it just struck me that, well, I knew that our emotions are intelligent because I had been studying neurolinguistic programming and I got this information from Leslie Cameron Bandler many, many years ago. But think of it for yourself. How do your emotions guide you? They are in and of themselves intelligent. They are part of your intelligence. Our body is part of our intelligence. Our body mind connection is incredibly powerful. And this is the value of emotions. Antonio Damasio, famous cognitive neuroscientist, really talks about it as being the heart of humanity. We aren't thinking machines that feel, we're actually feeling machines that sometimes think. I mean, think about your day and going along through your day. You are always in the um, the world of emotion. Um, it is the stuff of being human, and then we can think about it, but the emotions actually are in charge uh, uh, until we make a shift and we work with them and start dancing with our emotions and listening to them. We're going to get a little more deeply into that. Um, Emotions. Let's look a little bit more at emotions. Candace Pert, way back when, I think it was in the 80s, she was a biochemistry clinical neuroscientist at the National Institute of Mental Health. And she literally discovered the molecules that cause and create emotions. They're in every cell and they're always moving within us. And it turns out that, according to Candace Pert, the molecules of emotion literally hold us together. They keep everything, all of the other cells working together. The whole body mind intelligence that comes from this enormously complex and miraculous experience that we have as human beings, connecting our head, our heart, and our gut. You can see here a medical illustration of the vagus nerve, which completely envelops the brain, goes down, completely envelops the heart, completely envelops the gut. It's a passageway of signals that goes from top to bottom and bottom to top. And this is about a whole field of study called psychoneuroimmunology. Psychoneuroimmunology, our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes, how they affect our neurons, our nerves, our brains, and our biology and our immune system, and our response to infection, and the chemicals that are released. If we're inside of the body, mind, emotions, you can see on one side we have sympathetic involuntary responses that come from stress. The biological part of it is cortisol is released. It puts us in that freeze, fight, flight mode. The little red um, graph on the side there is the heart rate variability. When we're under stress, our heart is literally beating out of sync to itself. We move into the parasympathetic voluntary side. We take a deep breath. We bring ourselves into center. We start to regulate. And the heart rate variability starts to literally beat in synchrony with itself. Our body starts flooding itself with DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone, the anti-stress hormone, which helps us to pause, presence, and perceive. To pause, to presence, and to perceive. Our emotions also go fully through the electromagnetic field of the heart. I'm a trainer for the HeartMath Institute. This is a graphic that they've put together showing how the electromagnetic field of the heart goes way beyond our body. It's about the heart-brain connection. And what they surmise is that our heartbeat literally upon the wavelength of the heartbeat, it's like a Wi-Fi system that goes out to everyone around you. So if I'm under stress, my heartbeat is telling everybody that I'm under stress. If you walk into a room and everyone's under stress, you can feel the tension, like you could cut it with a knife, right? You walk into another room and people are happy and joyous and connected, and your heart opens. It's all interconnected. And this is all emotional. Consider stress, anxiety on one end of the spectrum. Heart, love, caring, kindness on the other end of the spectrum. This is all related to the wisdom of our body. This is all related to how do we catch the emotional reactions that we have and pay attention well enough to see that they're actually gifts from our body mind. So let's look at the wisdom of our body through the stress reactions that we have. We all have emotional reactions to stressors. It's called losing our cool. We're going along fine, something happens, maybe it's a flat tire, my reaction kicks in and I get my protective patterns kick up and I get really upset or I get really annoyed or really frustrated or really angry and my emotions peak. It takes a while to calm down. And after we've had a very strong negative emotional experience, we go into depletion. It takes a while to get back to baseline. Emotional reactions to stressors. Well, there's lots we can do with that. That's an unconscious reactive response. We also can learn that we can work with our stress curve. So we're going along fine. We get that flat tire, stress trigger goes off. I start to have the reaction, oh, I'm going to miss that meeting. And I notice that I'm having a protective pattern. It's like, oh, I'm being hypervigilant about the meeting. I don't want to miss it. I don't want people to think I'm skipping out, yada, yada, yada. And I start to get curious. Okay, what do I need to do here? And I can wonder and assess, and I can choose a resilience skill. That's the mindset of choice. There are many resilient skills I can choose. I can calm myself down. I can make the phone call. I can let people know. I can realize, oh, wow, I'm not going to make that meeting at all. That means that I'm going to be able to, wait for AAA to come and fix my car, and I can do this other thing that I needed to do, or make this other phone call. It's a world of possibility when we think about working with our emotions. We can also anticipate stress and use our resilient mindsets of curiosity, choice, and courage to face things. Maybe you're going to have a difficult meeting later today with your spouse, your partner, or your neighbor, or a colleague, or a parent, or whatever. And you're getting upset about that, and then you catch yourself getting upset, and you turn it into a revelation. Now you start getting curious and like, oh, well, I used to work in education, so I have this image of having to have a difficult meeting with a very angry parent after school. And I can shift and do a positive reframe and realize that that parent is actually my ally because I'm working with their child. And if I approach the meeting as if they're my ally, and I can just have compassion for what they're going through because they're in a reactive pattern. They're in a protective pattern like a mama bear or a papa bear would be. And I can use my courage, which is opening my heart. And I can choose to be kind. All of these things work together. I love this quote from Mark Brackett. It's a long one, but it's so good I put the whole thing in here. Let's read it together. Emotions are everything. The irony is that when we ignore our feelings or suppress them, the feelings only become stronger. The really powerful emotions build up inside us like a dark force that poisons everything we do, whether we like it or not. Hurt feelings don't vanish on their own. They don't heal themselves. If we don't express our emotions, I'll say that again, if we don't express our emotions, I would say if we don't feel our emotions, they pile up like a debt that will eventually come due. So what does that mean? Express our emotions, feel our emotions. It's noticing, it's paying attention. Oh, I'm getting frustrated. Oh, I'm having a reactive pattern. I want to avoid something. I want to attack something. I'm getting angry. Noticing, feeling, expressing is speaking to my emotions. Could be with a friend. It doesn't mean I'm expressing my emotions like I'm really angry, so I'm going to tell that SOB exactly what I think of them. That's not expressing my emotions in a healthy way. There are times for righteous anger. We're probably not going to go into that in too much detail because we're running out of time. But you get the idea, right? Emotions matter. They're everything to us. If we suppress them and pretend they're not there, they make us ill. Literally, they make us ill. I thought I had that slide in here. That's interesting. Um, um, yeah, I don't, but I have a slide that shows how uh, anxiety, stress, negative emotions, according to medical research, cause 90% of illness. 90, 90. That's huge. It's rampant through the medical literature. We know what stress does. Stress kills. Stress makes us overweight. Stress, changes our heart rhythm. It impacts our blood pressure. It causes psoriasis. I mean, you go on and on. It gives us stomach aches, right? I mean, who here has never had a stomach ache and realized, oh, because I'm upset about something, right? I'm upset about something. Then maybe it's bad enough I have diarrhea. I mean, think about the body, mind, and the wisdom of that. It's like flushing my body out because of the stress. So listening, paying attention. And we certainly want to listen to our protective patterns. I've talked about that already. That's our reactive resilience, how we react to the world. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. It's about just, we have distrusting and hypervigilance, and I doubt myself or others, or I'm on constant high alert. We have hyper caretaking and avoiding. You can learn about all of these, by the way, through our other webinars and our materials. Um, Over prioritizing someone else, giving myself away and feeling resentful about it, avoiding something, withdrawing, retreating. All of these have values. They all keep us safe, but they all can get in our way. And the last two are defending and attacking, acting like I'm being judged and criticized when actually someone's just giving me some feedback or saying something benign, but I take it like it means something about me. There's so much here. Hard to get to it all in a 45-minute webinar. And we've been going 42 minutes. So let's just think about the human condition. Every human being has absolutely impeccable reasons for being exactly who they are. We've just seen them. We've seen how we can shift from emotional reactions, reactive patterns, into gaining some revelation about the message, the importance of the message. And I want to leave you with a couple of pieces related to centering, because centering is such an important skill. Um, uh, I didn't mention at the beginning of this that I'm a black belt in Aikido, the peaceful martial art. And this idea of centering comes directly out of the martial arts. It's like, if I'm off center, I have zero power if I'm in a conflict or a difficult relationship or something that's difficult. I don't have any power if I'm out of my center. So the first step is always to center. Centering is bringing myself back to balance. Um, we call it personal resilience. It's how I create my world. We have a whole set of skills that I'm not going to have time to go into today. But again, you have all of these. We've looked at noticing myself. The breath can draw us straight into our center, letting go of things that don't matter, finding gratitude, feeling that exalted emotion. Again, think of emotion, think of this emotionally. The breath regulates our emotions, brings us into equanimity. Letting go, lets go of something that we're attached to or upset by. It changes our emotional field. Gratitude is one of those exalted emotions like love, where if we really get into it and feel it, it changes us. We can positive reframe our mental mindset about that flat tire or anything else that's happening in your life. And then lastly, we can nurturing ourselves. Now that's a big one. We didn't need another webinar for nurturing ourselves, but I'm going to give you a window into it. I'm going to do it through this lovely work called Theory U. Comes out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's this entire huge body of work that's all about being human and what it takes to be successful as a human being. And you can see here, number one, you've got to pause. You've got to stop and listen and let go of your previous expectations and attachments. Buddhists tell us, where the difficulties we face in life is because we're attached to something. So we pause, stop, listen, let go. We drop into just noticing. So there's curiosity right there. Observing ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings, behavior, observing others, observing the world around us, the cultural patterns that are pressing in on everybody. We observe and notice. Then we can drop into this space of presencing the moment, dropping into listening with the heart. And from there, we can see what we need, what's emerging, letting come what we need to do. Take a walk, meet with a friend, take a day off, have some wellness time, get a massage, all the things that let us then operate from wholeness, where we can recreate and invent a new way of being in our lives with others. So take just one more moment and ask everyone to, again, settle into your seat. If you're willing to, just let your eyes defocus or drop or close. And notice the breath, the intake and the exhale. And just let yourself notice what you're noticing about your emotional life, your reactive patterns, protective patterns that get in your way, all the choices and curiosity and mindsets and courage, centering skills that you already have, because we all know how to do that. Sometimes we forget to do it. It's all possible, and it all starts with feeling our feelings. And feeling our feelings starts with noticing the felt sense of sensation in the body and just being with that and riding it into its tears of sadness or grief, or riding it into its expression of knowing what you know is true and what you need to speak authentically to someone else. Our body signals this magical emotional elixir that's running through every cell in our body, gives us the revelations to be the kind of person we most want to be. And on 3, 2, 1, wiggle your fingers and toes and open your eyes. And thank you for being here in this webinar. I've gone almost 5 minutes over. Just want you to know you can go to our website, dovetaillearning.org. We have free digital resources. We have trainings, webinars. You can purchase materials. You can reach out to me directly, chuck@dovetaillearning.org. Our work is all an open education resource, which means it's licensed by the Creative Commons. That's why our work is free. You can adapt it, give attribution to Dovetail, collaborate, share back. And if you ever publish something with our work, you're required to publish it with the same license. So it's free and open to everyone else. Thank you so much for being here today. Always a pleasure to share our work. And I wish you resilience, emotional consciousness,